It's exactly almost 1 o'clock. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amy Snow Buckner, Managing Director of Communications at the City of Grand Rapids. I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank those who have tuned in via social media. This is a great day for our police department and for our city organization and for our community. So, City Manager, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great day today for the City of Grand Rapids and our police department. As many of you know, that we have been on a journey looking for our next police chief since the retirement of Chief Rahinsky. And we've engaged a national search firm and searched high and low. We've had a great pool of qualified candidates. I want to thank public sector search and consultants for the work that they've done, and Gary Peterson specifically. As it turned out, our candidate was right underneath our nose the entire time. But we had to validate that. He had to validate that through the process. As you know, we brought forth 3 finalists and sent those finalists through a very rigorous vetting process. They had a chance to engage members of the community at town hall meetings, but also participate with interview panels from the business community, faith-based community, employees, law enforcement, and some of the men and women of this department. And I am pleased today to announce the appointment of our next police chief at this moment. And I want to thank Deputy Chief, soon-to-be Police Chief Payne, for his service to the City of Grand Rapids. He is one who has dedicated his life to law enforcement. He has served our community specifically for 32 years in this department and has risen to the ranks of Deputy Chief, now to the highest ranks in the police department. He is one who really wants to be here, wants to be in this community. He has love for this community. He could have threw his name in the hat in any other police chief process in the country. He's eligible for retirement. He could have been a police chief somewhere else. I'm glad that he decided to continue to provide his leadership here in our community. I know that we as a community have a lot of challenges that face us, not only in public safety, but in many other areas. But I take comfort in knowing that Deputy Chief Payne is prepared for this challenge. I also want to thank and acknowledge for his work at interim leadership, David Kittle, Chief Kittle. Thank you for your leadership during this time. I know that you have been anxious as well for a decision to be made, and also want to acknowledge Acting Deputy Chief Pete McWaters for his work, along with all the men and women of the department, the command staff, and unions as well. But again, this is a day in which we begin a new period of policing in Grand Rapids. Chief Payne, unlike many of the other candidates, is very familiar with the issues, and although he could start on Monday, we have discussed him taking some time off to breathe and prepare for the new start, and he's going to take an entire week off. And he will begin his new post on the 22nd. And we will have an opportunity, the command staff is preparing an opportunity for a very unique promotional ceremony in which we will have recognize him, and we will have more information forthcoming on that ceremony where the entire community can participate. But at this time, without further ado, I would like to present for us and hear for the very first time remarks from our newly appointed Police Chief Eric Payne.
I want to thank everyone for coming here this afternoon. I want to thank Mr. Washington for having the confidence in me to lead this fine organization that serves this community. And it's really about the community. I want to also start out by telling a little bit about myself. I've been in the West Michigan area close to 40 years. I was born in a little town called Dowagiac, which is in Michigan. It's down south of here, but I moved here to attend Grand Valley State, and after graduating from there, I worked out there for a short time in the police department, but Grand Rapids was a place I wanted to come and work. and I've been here ever since. And it's just a great opportunity for me now. And starting out, I was very happy to first make my year's probation. And then along the way, I was promoted to sergeant, lieutenant, captain. I've worked in almost every area of this department, was able to have a lot of great mentors along the way. I have to recognize one person that I worked for when we brought community policing to Grand Rapids, and that's retired Deputy Chief James Ferris. He was a big mentor in my life. I still talk to him occasionally, and working with him. And one thing he really taught me, or things I learned from him, is having relationships with the community. And he exemplified that in his contacts with the community. So I just want to mention him. Some of the things moving forward as the chief, there's first priority for the men and women of the Grand Rapids Police Department is the safety of this community for its residents and the visitors that come to this city. That is essential to our job, and we will do our job, making sure that everyone is safe. I just gave a news briefing last week about several events that have occurred in the city. We have talked about that at length. That will be one of my number one priorities moving forward, making sure that everyone is safe in this city, regardless of where it's at. We need to make sure this is a welcoming community. We have to look at reducing our crime rate and making sure we keep an eye on that. And more importantly, solving these crimes when they occur. And I will keep going back to that, and that's building the relationships in the community. Having good, sound relationships in the community will help us in reducing the crime rate and solving these crimes. It was a great example of Mr. Washington and community leaders, Chief Gittle. Others had unprecedented with commissions and elected officials, but we had a rally or a conference at Joe Taylor Park last week. That is the type of commitment we need from everyone in making sure that we are addressing these violent crime issues. As far as community policing and transparency, community policing. We have to make sure that every member of this department understands that is our goal, and that's how we are operating within this city. Making sure every member understands their commitment to it, and that is another thing that we need, I will make sure that we are addressing. Transparency is important, open data on our arrests, traffic stops. We need to be able to provide that to the public to let them know what we're doing. It shouldn't take incidents to cause us to have to bring that forward. And again, like I went back to, or said earlier, engaging the community and having those partnerships, I think, are essential to doing that and being able to talk about those tough issues. That is what I'm willing to do. That's what the command staff, deputy chiefs are willing to do, and we will work toward that. We have to look at our staffing and our training that we provide our officers. We've had a number of studies that have been done over the years. We're really going to have to drill down into those studies and take those recommendations and make sure that we're putting those forward within the police department. There was a time there where studies were coming out when Chief Rohinsky was leaving. We really have to sit down and take a look at those and make sure we're implementing some of those recommendations that have been given, that were given to us by national experts. I was co-chair of the policy and procedure review that we conducted over a year long. There's a number of recommendations that we'll have to take a good look at and start implementing some of those that we have not already implemented. We have to, and when it goes to training, we have to look at our de-escalation and our cultural diversity, or cultural intelligence of our officers, making sure they are serving the public well. All in all, those are three of the main topics that I will be looking to address after my week time away, but moving forward. And I understand these things aren't going to happen overnight, but it is something that we need to start, we really need to focus on and make sure we're committed to doing. And I have the utmost belief that the men and women of the Grand Rapids Police Department will step up, and we will continue to serve this public well. With that, I would take some questions, or if there's any questions.
Chief, people are going to look at you coming in with 30 years on the force as kind of maybe a business as usual choice. Is that what you are, or are you really looking to make changes in the department? Kind of what is your focus going forward in terms of what needs to be done in the department?
Sure. One thing, there are a lot of good things that are occurring within the department. We're CALEA certification, and in those studies, they bring out that you have a good police department. But there were certainly recommendations, and I've outlined some of them that we need to look at, and those are the changes I'd look to implement and address moving forward. It will not be business moving as usual moving forward. There will be changes to the Grand Rapids Police Department. We'll take the good things that we're doing, continue to do those, and if we can do those even better, we're going to do that. But there are certainly things that we'll look to do. I mentioned the open data. We need to get our data out there better so people can see that. So there will be changes. It's not business as usual.
Chief, are you able to elaborate on any of those specific recommendations that you'd like to focus on first in terms of making?
Yeah. Again, there were a number of studies that were done. Staffing and deployment study just came out not too long ago. There's a number of things that we've certainly have looked at, but we're going to have to take a real deep dive into it and make sure we can accomplish it, first of all. Those are the type of things we'll be looking at. I don't want to get too specific. We will certainly keep you updated as we implement. One thing I will share, the community and everyone should look to, in probably about 3 weeks, we'll be announcing our new foreign national policy that will give officers direction in dealing with foreign nationals. So that's something that we hope to have within the next 3 weeks, and like I said, it'll give officers better direction in how to deal with foreign nationals, specifically immigrations.
Will that be, do you feel like that'll be different than protocol right now?
Yes, there will be a policy set up with it. At this time, we don't have a specific policy for it. This will better direct officers to be able to deal with foreign nationals when they encounter them.
Chief, you've had 30 years of on-force, in-house policing. Do you think that's a positive thing in your leadership now of seeing the changes that have been brought about through those 30 years and what's happening in the community? Instead of bringing an outsider in, you know the area, you know the community.
Well, I will focus on the relationships that I have personally built over the years. I would like to see our officers, and I think they are out there doing that, having relationships with the community, with city government, and also relationships within the department. I could see that as a positive. I see that as a positive moving forward in leadership.
Can we address a question to the city manager?
Sure.
Okay. So people are going to wonder, why did we go through all this? Why did we go through the multiple searches and the multiple interviews, only to end up right back here? People are going to wonder, was this a waste of time? How would you address that?
Absolutely not. I think anytime I make a hire, particularly one as important as this, the police chief, where you have a leader of a department that has the ability to ensure the public safety and there's life at risk, you want to make sure you do it right. And that means that this community deserves the best and brightest across the nation. Same thing for city manager. Fortunately, this community took a very broad view of city management and want to make sure we looked across the country. Same thing that's being done for superintendent, et cetera. So no, it's a position at that level, and it deserves that level of scrutiny, and you go through the process to make sure that you're getting the best candidate. And for me, more importantly than credentials, because you have a lot of people who look good on paper, when it comes to policing, you have to want to be in a certain community. You have to love that community, and you have to want to see it improve. And I think those are things that came out of the process, and it was not clear to everyone when this began. I appreciate Chief Payne's patience during the process, because we could have, had I appointed him as interim, we probably wouldn't be standing here today, and we had to be very deliberate about the process. I said it to begin with, we want an interim chief who did not feel like they had to interview while they were being interim. And that's what Chief Kittle did, and it gave Chief Payne an opportunity to really think about whether or not he wanted to spend his time here as the rest of his career as chief here. Unfortunately, he did.
Was the job offered to anyone else? Were you negotiating with anyone else, specifically the Pittsburgh candidate? Were you actually in negotiations with him, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So the entire interview process is a negotiation, if you will. And today, I'm not here to talk about any other candidate but Eric Payne. Those are all fine candidates that participated in the process, and they would have made great chiefs in this community, and should they continue on in their policing endeavors. But right now, Payne is the only one that's still in policing. Chief Yankowski's retired, and Chief Scarrato has been retired, and Chief Payne is the one who wants to be here in Grand Rapids today.
So you didn't offer the job to Scarrato?
Again, I'm here today to talk about the person that I'm appointing, and that is Eric Payne.
Hey, Chief, why did you want to be chief? You saw which place, but why even have this headache? And because you're caught in the middle between everyone?
Well, I don't see it like that. Mr. Washington brought it out. I still feel like I have something to offer in policing, and this is my community that I live in. And there's a lot of relationships I build up externally and internally. I think there's a lot of good that is going on with the Grand Rapids Police Department. I think I can make it even better.
What'd your family say when you said you were going to be chief? Or even when you got the job? I mean, they're here.
I would not have even started down the road if they weren't supportive of me, and they've been very supportive of me.
Chief, you mentioned during the community forum that there are times in your life where you've dealt with racial profiling. I know that's something that community members have brought up in the last couple of years. Can you speak to the significance of being the first black police chief for this department, for this city?
Sure. I've been in law enforcement for 32 years. I know the culture of law enforcement. And I don't mind saying I'm 55 years old, so I've been African American that entire time. Nothing's changed. So what I hope to do is bridge that gap, and what I've always tried to do for the law enforcement community to understand people of color, and also the community to understand law enforcement. It's about building that relationship, understanding. I think everyone in the community wants the same thing, and that's a safe community, which is that's my number one priority. It's how we get there is sometimes we come in conflict, and we can break down those barriers. So I welcome the challenge. I think relationships are very important in this type of job.
Can I ask specifically about the police union? The police union has said multiple times in the past year in different ways that they believe the city leadership doesn't support the officers of this department. You came up through those ranks, but you say there need to be changes. What is your message to the unions today?
Well, I think the message is they're here today, and I believe they're in support of this department and the leadership of this department. And we will continue. They're a partner also, and that's building relationships with them and having that good, sound relationship. Again, I'll go back to the Joe Taylor Park. That was the first time I've seen elected officials, the city manager, community members speaking on an issue out in the public. I think we need to continue with that, and I believe the union leadership, they want the same things also. They want a safe community, and I failed to mention, we need to keep our officers safe too, and that's what their goal is also. So by working together, I think we can accomplish those goals.
Let me,
Yes.
do we have another question?
Yeah, so what's, the two interim, or sorry, two deputy chief positions, have you made a decision on, are these two gentlemen here gonna be in those positions? or-
Yeah, that's in his court.
That's in my court. What I want to do is take a week off. That's not answering your question, but that's something we'll have to sit down and discuss. Make sure, see where we're at, see if they're interested. Obviously, Deputy Chief Kittle is in that position. So this does create a deputy chief's position. We'll have to sit down and discuss that with them.
If no other questions for the chief, I just want to reiterate, Chief Payne has my 100% support, as well as our city commission and the entire executive leadership, top management leadership. We want to see him successful. This community wants to see him successful, and therefore we want to see our entire department successful. And that's my commitment. I said that from the beginning. I wanted somebody who wanted to keep us safe, who was tough on crime, but who was also able to build community relations. We know that we have areas to improve in all of those areas, and I believe that we can make progress moving forward. So you'll be hearing updates periodically, and he will be back. I think we have another presentation on cure violence towards the end of this month, and that will be an additional opportunity for the chief to give some perspective on what he hears as recommendations moving forward and other ways to keep this community safe. Anything else? You want to close this out?
Sure do. All right, so just wanted to thank you all again for being here, and let's celebrate this great day in our city.